There we go. Okay, we will call to order the Oak Island Town Council regular meeting of February 10th, 2015. The council will enter into its invocation led by Councilor Loman Scott, and then we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, it's such an honor to come before you tonight, and thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We'd like to ask you to watch over our meeting tonight, help us make the right decisions, watch over our families and friends, and we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Scott. We have no public hearings tonight, so next is council reports. Councilor Kaiser.
No report, Mayor
No
Wallace.
report. Councilor Scott.
No report.
Councilor Medlin.
No report.
Councilor Painter.
The Brunswick Beaches Consortium meeting, which was previously scheduled for Bald Head Island on the 12th, which is Thursday, has been rescheduled for Oak Island at 10 a.m. on Thursday, so the public is welcome to attend.
And it will be held right here in the council chambers.
In the council chambers.
Yep.
One just little brief report to let everybody in the town know that we had our budget workshop. And during that workshop, I think it's a pretty good idea when we have big projects going on in the town that we actually get to hear the voice of everybody in town. So I have recommended if anything big happens in the town, there should be 2 public hearings from now on instead of 1. That way everybody has a chance to actually voice their opinion. If they can't make it to the first month's meeting, they'll make it to the next. That's all I have.
And it was at the retreat.
It was that tree.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one quick thing on mine. This coming weekend, we have the 4th annual Mardi Gras by the Sea celebration. Friday, it will kick off February 13th at the Grape and Ale. They have a crawfish and shrimp boil. Friday through Saturday, they have a scavenger hunt. You can get the cards at several businesses. Look on Facebook, or I'll put it over here on the table. Saturday, February 14th, they have the Children's Story Hour at 10 a.m. at Barbie Library for Mardi Gras. And then at 11, we have the 4th annual Mardi Gras Celebration Parade. It will kick off at Oak Island Accommodations and come down to the Town Hall. And this is the backwards from the Christmas parade. But if you haven't been to one of those Mardi Gras parades, they're a lot of fun. 11 a.m. beginning at Oak Island Accommodations. 12 noon to 4 p.m., there will be an Arts and Crafts Festival at the Elks Lodge as part of the Mardi Gras celebration. And Saturday, February 14th, there'll be a bonfire on the beach at sundown at 46th Street Access at 6 p.m. And you must attend to be eligible for the scavenger hunt prizes to the bonfire. And then something new this year, Sunday morning, there will be a pancake breakfast catered by Robert Wallace Catering at the Grape and Ale. It will be $5 per person. So look in the pilot. I think they have this everything that's going to be held this weekend. Look online on Facebook, Mardi Gras by the Sea. And come to the parade at 11 a.m. Saturday morning. It's going to be a lot of fun. Next, we have presentations, proclamations, and recognitions. I'm going to read a good part of this one. And then I will take this to her. I have to admit, mea culpa. I have to be forgiven. I never did get the proclamation from last year over to Miss Maddie Holloway. So I'm going to take this year's and last year's to her next week. This is a proclamation recognizing the 104th birthday of Maddie Joynes Holloway. She lives right here in Oak Island. Everyone in the Oak Island community can learn much from a citizen with 104 years of life experience. And whereas Maddie Joynes Holloway celebrated her 104th birthday on February 1st, 2015, and whereas she was born in Allegheny County in 1911, she attended school in Whitehead and married Kermit, her high school sweetheart. And whereas she and her husband moved to the town of Long Beach in 1963, among those first few families that made permanent roots in the island community. And I will read the last of it, whereas it is quite appropriate for the town of Oak Island to take time to honor Maddie Joynes Holloway and to help her celebrate this momentous occasion. Now therefore, I, Betty W. Wallace, Mayor of the town of Oak Island, do hereby deem it an honor and a pleasure to recognize Maddie Joynes Holloway for the occasion of her 104th birthday with sincere admiration and warm wishes. And if you look at this this week's pilot, they have a picture of her with her 104th birthday cake, and she's precious. I do have another proclamation to add that was not on the agenda. I was late asking the clerk to include it. And as you'll see, several of us, many of us are wearing red. It's in recognition of American Heart Month. And this is a proclamation declaring February as American Heart Month in the town of Oak Island. Whereas the American Heart Association is the only voluntary health agency whose sole mission is to build healthier lives free of cardiovascular disease and stroke, and whereas heart attacks and strokes kill and disable more people each year than all other health-related causes combined, and whereas it is now possible to reduce this terrible toll dramatically through proper diet, exercise, and medical care, whereas the American Heart Association and its local affiliates have engaged in a concerted effort to focus public attention on the opportunities we had to protect ourselves against the ravages of these afflictions. Now, therefore, I, Betty W. Wallace, do hereby proclaim February as American Heart Month and remind our citizens of the vital importance of preventive health care and to support educational programs to help fight against heart disease and stroke. This the 10th day of February, 2015. And just watch for the whole month. You'll see little things that it'll all be centered around the color red. Next, we have a presentation with an update on the Eastern Channel project. It's going to be done by representatives of Moffatt and Nickel. And we all should be very close friends with you by now, but there may be people that haven't heard your name, so please introduce yourselves when you come to the podium.
Mayor,
Please.
if I could, due to the distance that they have, is there any way we could move one of the items up on the regular agenda? I think it's under new business.
New business number 1.
New business number 1, to move it up to maybe consideration by the board after the presentation, if that's possible.
Board consensus, we move new business number 1 to immediately after the presentation by Moffatt and Nickel. Okay, that'll work.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and my name is Johnny Martin. I'm with Moffatt Nickel. I have Peter Elkin, if he'll stand up. He's also been working on the project, and Dawn York with Dial Cordy. So if I get in trouble, I'll throw out the lifeline to one of you guys while I'm giving this update. So the last time we talked to you was in December, and so what's changed since December? Well, a lot has. So the permit agencies have, we turned into permits in late November, and there's been a lot of questions that have come up. They required that we do a cultural survey to verify that there were no shipwrecks or artifacts in the Eastern Channel. They also required us to do some sediment chemistry testing of the non-beach compatible material that was going to be placed into Sheep's Island to make sure that that was going to be allowable. So we had those two things come at us, and then on the day that we had the bid opening, we got a call from the Corps of Engineers that said that Sheep Island could not be used for the project, that we actually had to go and use Horse Island. So that was...
Could I say one thing? Actually, Johnny, you're being kind. It was 10 minutes before the bid opening.
Yeah, it was 10 minutes before the bid opening, so yeah, thank you, Steve. So the project had to be redesigned to use Horse Island. And of course, all these items were brought up at the pre-application meeting in August that a number of you guys were at. But we didn't have any comments at that time, and so it was a little disappointing that a lot of these things probably could have been brought up at that point, but there again, I guess they just didn't think about some of these things until they actually had the permit in the hand. So anyway, so that's why we had all these changes, and so it required us to redo some project design as well as a lot of coordination as well. So there's been a lot of late nights and weekends to try to keep the project on schedule with these changes sort of that came up at the last minute. So we did the cultural survey, and so what we did find that there was one target that was of of interest. So what they do is they go out there with a magnetometer and they're scanning and looking for something that, you know, could be an item of interest. We did find one target at the very end of the project. This is the marina here. So it was right at the very end. Of course, that you really can't, with the systems that they use, you can't tell what it is until you then go back and dive on it. But given the fact that it was right at the end of the project and it could delay the project, we decided just to stop the project 50 foot away from that target to meet the required buffer, so we didn't have to. If they told us if we just stayed 50 foot away from it, we wouldn't have to do anything else. And so since it was so close to the end of the project and it was already to the point where it was going to daylight into the existing ground, we made the decision just to have the buffer. The sediment chemistry results, so where those were done, we had to go back where we took the Vibra cores to determine which areas were beach compatible and non-beach compatible. If you remember, this area that we have highlighted in red is the non-beach compatible portion. So we had to go back and grab some more sediment samples and send it off to a lab, and those results appear to be favorable with no impacts to the contracts currently expected. In fact, we got an email late this afternoon that said it's all good. So as you can tell, this thing is moving on a day-to-day basis, and it's, you know, so we're staying on our toes. So this is the current plan here. Again, this is the channel that'll be dredged. And of course, we have 2 locations currently planned for the beach placement. So from this point sort of west is the beach compatible material that'll go here. And from here to here will now go to Horse Island. So again, there is a little further distance and there was some work that has to be done that I'll talk about in a little bit more about how that affected our bid. Because there again, we found out about this the day of the bid. So there again, there was a lot of communication that had to happen with the contractor to see what the impact of costs would be. So as far as where we stand with permitting, we did receive the 401 water quality certification last week. We expect to CAM a major permit by the end of the week on February 13th. The Corps also has a general permit 291 and section 408 review. There was a lot of discussion on the 408 review, what kind of impact this project may have on the AIWW crossing. After a lot of discussion, it was determined that a 408 review was not needed, so that was good news. And so we still expect the Corps permit by February 20th. U.S. Fish and Wildlife has given us some of their draft conservation measurement and monitoring requirements, requiring some bird monitoring and some compaction monitoring. And we're expecting to get, we've seen the draft of that, but we're expecting to get the final by here within a week. Okay, we got it. So we got that within the last couple of days. There again, this is keeping us all on our toes. National Marine Fisheries, as part of the Essential Fish Habitat, must continue their water quality monitoring program. So that was good news. Some of the things that you're already doing already meets that requirement. So there was at least no additional cost that had to be incurred to do that. So there was some good news.
Just want to point out that Mr. Morrison and company can be thanked for their water quality monitoring. Thank you, Malcolm, wherever you are back here.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And then, again, with the change from Sheep Island to Horse Island, we turned that around pretty quickly with Dawn's help, and we did get a letter of consent back from the state to be able to use that. So the project schedule, so what's happened since we had bid openings, we had to have 2 since there's state money involved. The first one, we only had 1 bid. If you don't have 3, at least you have to rebid. We rebid it for a week. The next week, we did the bid opening. We had one that was Cottrell Contracting that I'll talk about in a minute. We've been working with them on this permit rework and the contract negotiation, over the last few weeks. We're expecting to receive the permits again within a couple of weeks, and currently constructing the project March and April for the beach compatible portion and May for the non-beach compatible portion. So that's what we're expecting for construction of the project. So I want to talk about the budget. So this was the original budget that we came up with back in August. So we had roughly $3.5 million, had our design and permitting fees of $274. We had 2.8, and then the contingencies for up to the 3.5. So we carry over the 3.5 million. We subtract what we've spent to date, which is or, you know, what's encumbered to date, which is still the 274, 925. Another thing that we learned is that we had to pay the Corps of Engineers $141,785 for the right to dispose the material onto Horse Island. And this additional work that we've had to do with a survey of Sheep Island, the cultural survey of the Eastern Channel, the sediment chemistry, additional permit coordination, and the additional engineering rework and coordination by Moffett Nickel, that's come up to about another $101,150.
I want to talk about our discussions with the Corps on that.
Yes, the town is having discussions with the Corps, given the fact of all these changes that we've had of going from Sheep's Island to Horse Island, and now with the additional work that we're having to do to Horse Island to make it to where it can receive the material, we are talking with them about getting that money back. So we're in discussions about that. In order for us to get the money back, there might have to be some additional improvements that have to be done, and once we get that back from the contractor, we'll make a decision on which one is more cost effective for the town, and then make a decision, make a recommendation to you guys on that. So then our proposed construction, let me go back. So if we subtract that dollar amount, and that dollar amount, we're left with a little over $3 million left for project construction. So again, we did have some more for a contingency, but as you can see, all these additional rework items kind of ate into what we had for our contingency. But anyway, we still had a little over $3 million. So our original estimate was 2.9, or right at 3. The Cottrell bid that we received on January 20th was around 3.1. And we negotiated with them, and just last week got the amount down to $3,050,100. One of the things we had in the bid item, even though we don't think that we're going to have to engage that, but it's always good with these kind of projects to have it kind of laid out ahead of time, is what if something were to happen and the environmental agencies, you know, if there was a turtle or something happened, a turtle nest, and all of a sudden the agencies required us to stop work. Well, you don't want to be negotiating that with the contractor when you've told them to stop work. You want to know that ahead of time. So that's why we went ahead and have 2 days suspension of work and 1 day of beach tilling. So these are optional tasks. So the proposed contract for Cottrell will be $3 million. Now, of course, we had that change to Horse Island, so that really didn't, so, you know, their original bid of the $3.1 million did not have Horse Island, it had Sheep Island. So when we told them about that, since there's another mile of pipe that would have to be brought in, and they'd have to bring in another dredge to act as a booster pump because of that additional distance, originally that was going to cost us another $425,000. So their total bid before we started negotiating with them would have been $3.6 million. So we had to talk with them about how to get that down to what was within the budget. So we had to make some changes to the penalty clauses. So the original penalty clauses were that if the contractor did not complete 80% of the beach compatible work, they had to pay $2 per cubic yard not placed, as well as they were going to forfeit their retainage and 40% of their mowed-demowed payment. Okay, so in order to get the 3.6 down to 3 million, we had to change that to then read, and there was a lot of back and forth on this, and the town was involved. If the contractor does not complete 65% of the beach compatible work, they'll forfeit 20% of the mowed-demowed payment. So that was the changes we had to make to the contract language in order to get the 3.6 down to $3 million. But we're still comfortable that, especially now that it looks like the permits are going to come in on time, and you know, and especially now that we can get the beach compatible work done March and April, we're hopeful, and finish the non-beach compatible in May. You know, we're all very, and the contractor as well is very comfortable that we should have enough time to complete the whole project, but you just want to have some terms like this in to protect the town. Some of the other things that have come into play is some of the permit conditions that are coming in on a daily basis. One of them was to required for bird monitoring. And so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Biological Opinion permit conditions require a multi-year shorebird monitoring program. So they have to do weekly bird surveys during construction, which is estimated to be about 10 weeks, and bi-monthly for 3 years. And again, that's on both sides of the inlet. So it has to be done on the Oak Island side as well as the Holden Beach side. So again, this is work for Dow Cordy that would be $109,645.
That'd be over a 3.5-year period.
Yeah, that would be over a 3.5-year period. So it's roughly $30,000 a year to complete what needs to be completed. So of course, Steve, when all these things were happening, we were wanting to make sure we could provide a little bit more financial buffer for the project. So he talked to Darren England over at Division of Water Resources, and they agreed, given all these changes that had happened that were really beyond our control, they agreed to award the town an additional $252,000 for a total of a little over $2 million that they will be willing to put toward the project. Steve and some of the town board members here, I guess, went to Brunswick County and over a few times, and the Board of Commissioners has agreed to fund $500,000 over 3 years. So now the total available budget for construction, if you go back to the a little over $3 million, add the 504, which is $252 from the state, and since it's a 50% match, it's another $252 from the town. That's where the 504 comes from, and the 500 from the county, and then we subtract the 109,645. Now the available budget for construction is $3.9 million. So that will give us a good buffer for contingency if needed. Hopefully we won't have to do that. Hopefully we won't have to encumber some of those additional town funds. But it is always nice to not be so close right as you start a construction project. So the action items for the board to consider is to authorize the town manager to enter into contract with Cottrell Contracting for the construction of the project. So the base contract would be $3 million with the potential for optional items, which are the downtime and beach tilling, may or may not be involved. And then we also have a provision in the contract that gives us a unit rate that if we find additional volume and want to put that up on the beach as well, given the fact there's been some changed conditions, we might be able to do that. So that's one item. The second item is to authorize the town manager to amend our contract to include these additional field investigations, rework and coordination due to the Permit Agency Corps of Engineers concern. So that amendment's for $101,150. So that'll make our total contract a little over $376,000, which is 12.5% of the construction contract, which, since we're including construction observation, that is still well within the industry standard. And then the last item is to authorize the town manager to enter into a separate contract with Dow Cordy for the multi-year monitoring program of $109,654.
Have you got that slide that I put together in there? Did you bring it with you?
No.
All this means, I think it was, help me here, $2,200,000 total town obligation
Right.
for everything we figure that needs to be done. And that would be coming out of the accommodations and beach tax funds.
That'd be the B fund,
That's
not the
right.
A fund.
Yeah, whatever.
Be the beach fund.
And that was thanks to our good friends at Brunswick County and Division of Water Resources.
Yep.
Would you please go back to the slide that showed the 101,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So those items include the Joyner-Kenney survey of Sheep Island that was done, because that was something that was added kind of at the beginning of the project. And there again, we didn't want to stop, given how quickly this thing's been moving. We've been keeping Steve in the loop on all these things as they've come in and been done. But these are all the items. So the Joyner-Kenney survey of Sheep's Island, the cultural survey, sediment chemistry testing, and then the additional work by us and Dow Cordy.
So there was was some money sent to the Corps, and we're trying to get some back, or I'm not clear on
No,
exactly?
no, no. What this is, all those items below the additional design and construction contract, these were all conditions, all, I don't know how many agencies there were, how many total agencies, Dawn, we had to go through for this?
I can answer that, but I think the question is, have we sent a check for?
Right,
Oh,
that-
well,
that's-
you're
that's
talking
a-
about the Corps
that's-
getting a check? Yes,
We sent 2 checks.
yeah, we had to do that in order to get permission to do this, as I understand it. Right, Dawn?
And that's the
That's the
141,000.
141,000.
And I was in conversation with them today, like explaining that we wanted to get most of this money back. And that's what Johnny was talking about a few minutes ago. If we can make any improvement to that disposal site, then we'll get the whole check back that we sent to them. But what we're gonna have to do is put in 2 extra feet on the dike
Right,
on the western end.
right, let me
And
show
he's
you
getting a
this.
price just to see what that is so that we get our check back from the Corps.
So this is Horse Island here. So one of the things, the reason that it was gonna cost another $425,000 for Cottrell Contracting to use this is because this part of the island here is above the dike. So in order to get this to where they can even use it, and this is the low area here, and there's a control structure here. So in order to, since this is really fine material, it takes a long distance for it to settle out. What Cottrell Contracting's subcontractor, I think it's Jerry McLam here locally, that's their subcontractor going to do this work, is he has to raise this portion of the dike around this portion roughly 5 feet. So that they can put the pipe in here and create enough distance so that by the time it gets here, the material settles out. Because one of the permit conditions is the quality of the water that comes out of this pipe.
Let me explain, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So so that's already included in our budget. So what Steve is talking about is that what the Corps told us today is that if we come in and on this lower portion raise it by 2 feet as well, then possibly they could give us the money back. So that's why we've asked Cottrell Contracting to tell us how much they would charge to do that. So then we can say, okay, is it better to pay for that, or is it better to just let the Corps keep the money? Because if they come back and tell us it's another $200,000 to raise this 2 feet, then we're going to say, okay, Corps, here's your money. If it's less than the $136,000, then we'll entertain the motion of, paying.
What happens on this too, in case y'all might know this, and tell me if you do, but this is like a crater that they build at the top of the spoil site. And what happens is they pump the spoil or the slush into the dike, and then all the material settles to the bottom. And then they have a riser along with a discharge pipe that goes out the top. So all the settlement goes to the bottom, water goes out the spout up at the top, and then it all settles out, and that's how they dispose the material in a slurry. And what they're saying is it wasn't tall enough at that dike to accommodate, any additional capacity that anyone else would want to use. So that's the reason for it, and that's the reason we're asking Cottrell to get their contractor to look at raising 2 feet. My thought is, though, that since the equipment's over there, they're already mobilized, then they shouldn't take too much more to put an additional 2 feet on the top of this dike.
It's just sand, right?
Well, no, this will be the non-beach compatible material.
I mean, the dike we're talking about.
Yeah, that'll be sand, right.
They'll be raising it a couple of feet, and they want it to be 10 foot wide at the top, 3 to 1 side slopes at the bottom. So, I mean, there'll be some requirements that the Corps will have on it for, how they want these things constructed.
And I asked him, I said, now this isn't a dollar for dollar exchange here, this is our whole check back. And he said, yeah, if you put the 2 feet up there, then we can get the whole thing back.
Anybody else got any more questions? Everybody understands exactly what we just talked about. Word?
I'm sorry, it's a lot of information. I know it is, but, hopefully.
Pretty much.
We've listened to it, talked about it, so there's a lot of this that we know exactly what you're talking about. So we're gonna have to do a good job of, the people out in the public that, and you say, what? So Will help them understand exactly what you just said. The council want to consider, new business number 1.
Madam Mayor, I was gonna see if I may interject. There's a couple items on the contract, the contract documents is a whole litany of documents, and the insurance is addressed both in the general conditions and supplemental conditions. And it's a pretty good, it's kind of boilerplate, it's pretty good in favor of the town, but I want to add one thing. I want to make the town an additional insured on their policy. And then also on the indemnification provision, I want to tweak that based on the case that I handled for Walker Mall last year. Every case kind of presents its own issues, and if you learn from it, maybe you can try to prevent it in the future. They're relatively minor. I don't think they'll have a financial impact to the bottom line, but I think they'll, both of those things tweaked will better protect the town's interests. And other than that, I would recommend the contract as proposed.
With one addition, and that's with the provision that we get our permit. Go ahead and go with it. Wouldn't you recommend that?
Right, well, we've pretty much told them, the way this is gonna work from now on is if you guys agree to go into contract, authorize the town to go into contract with them, we're gonna call Cottrell and say, look, it's moving forward. Once we make the tweaks to the contract, we're gonna send it to Cottrell and let them sign it before the town signs it.
Right.
And so we're gonna ask them to sign it first, send it back to us, and then once we get the permits in, what I've told them is that once we get the permits in and we're sure that we got the permits, then that's when the town will sign it and send it back, just so that we don't have that issue, Steve, about that. So that's how we've told the contractor that we were going to proceed, and he seemed to be fine.
Yeah,
with
I
that.
just want to make sure that was covered.
Well, but given the time associated with it, particularly with the time of the essence clause in the contract, you may want to take action on it tonight to allow the town manager to go ahead and sign it once all that plays out, provided there's no substantive changes to the contract.
So we need a motion to approve the contract with Cottrell Contracting Company with the amendments that were discussed by the attorney and manager.
Right.
As far as cost, I just want to make sure everybody understands we're okay with that because of the additional funding. Our total maximum obligation, if everything goes what way we're looking at, is $2,022,000 for the total obligation. That's what, for the town's portion, which is a good deal, I think. But
Do I have a motion to approve the Cottrell contract with the amendments as suggested by the attorney and the manager?
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Painter. Do I have a second by Counselor Medlin? Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? And it is unanimous. And since we had those amendments to that, should we do an additional motion to approve the amendments to the Moffitt and Nickel contract?
Why, there might as well.
So moved.
might as well, and also the Dial Cordy.
Yeah, and also the approval of the contract. A motion to approve the amendments to the Moffitt and Nickel contract and also approval of the contract with Dial Cordy
And that's for bird monitoring.
for the bird monitoring.
So moved.
So moved by Counselor Painter, seconded by Counselor Medlin. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Thanks. Appreciate that update.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hopefully in about 6 weeks, we'll have some sand pumping, so that's what we're looking for.
I think we'll make some people happy with that.
I didn't hear.
And something very important, I totally forgot, pulled a brain fade during my mayor's report. We have another one of our South Brunswick High School students with us this evening, Tiffany Hudson. Tiffany, please stand up. She is in the Honors Civics course at South Brunswick High School, and they have to attend a government meeting, and she has to get her picture with an official to prove she was here, and then I had to sign it to prove she was here. And with her is Shelby Eilefeld. Shelby is in the early college program at South Brunswick. She goes to Brunswick Community College to get, you'll have how many credits when you graduate high school?
I'll graduate my 2 years associate's degree in finance.
She will graduate high school with a 2-year associate's degree. And I proudly assisted her in her project was on dog rescue and the issue of unwanted dogs and cats, and you got an overall 98 on that project. And Tiffany, you are required to let me know what overall grade you get on this high school project for the civics class, okay? All right.
Mayor, also, can I say one thing? I'm sorry. We have Kathleen Snyder here with her daughter, and I'm gonna let Kathleen introduce her. She's here for the same, I guess, the
As long
same
as you come to the
purpose.
podium so we can hear you, and, or Kathleen, what is your daughter's name? Gracie Deal. Pardon? Gracie Deal. Gracie Deal. Gracie, stand up, please. And you're in the honors civics class at South Brunswick? And you're doing this to, as part of that course, correct? And you'll have to get a picture with one of us before you leave, and then one of us will need to sign your paper saying that you met with an official while you were here. Cool deal. Thanks for bringing her. All three of you stand up. Gracie. I've said this so many times, you're looking at our future here. Thanks for coming. Okay, next we have the audit presentation by our auditors, Johnny Britt with Preston Douglas and Associates.
Thank you, Mayor Wallace. With me tonight, fellow associates, Jan Lennon, Matt McLean. Stand up, please. They were the field auditors on the job.
Those are the ones that actually do the work, right? Yeah.
Well, let me say this. The mayor and I did have an extensive conversation. So she did lead us in the right direction. So we had questions, and we had extensive interviews with heads of departments, with the town manager, the finance director, the previous finance director. So we knew where to go when we got in. What you have before you tonight is audit presentation material, which includes three important areas: the auditor's report, the management's discussion and analysis, and then some selected financial statements. Now, this is all part of the comprehensive annual financial report that will go to the Local Government Commission of North Carolina. First of all, let's turn to page 5, just to the auditor's report. On page 5 at the top, it indicates we have audited the financial statements of the governmental activities, the business type activities, and the discretely presented component unit, which is the ABC board of the town of Oak Island for the year ended June 30, 2014. Let's turn to page 6 at the top of the page for our opinion, which indicates, in our opinion, based on our audit of the financial statements referred to above, present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, and the discretely presented component unit, and the remaining fund information of the town of Oak Island. What we're saying here is we believe the financial information included in this report and the CAFR, which goes to the Local Government Commission, is fairly presented, a clean opinion. Okay? Let's turn to the, as I mentioned, the management discussion and analysis section. We could turn to page 16. At the bottom of page 16, the very last sentence, the governing body of the town of Oak Island has determined that the town should maintain a fund balance of no less than 25% of general fund expenditures in case of unforeseen needs or opportunities, in addition to meeting the cash flows. The town currently has an available fund balance of 56.2% of general fund expenditures. So you're requiring 3 months.
Would you repeat that, please?
It's good. So it's an improvement.
56.2%.
So you're almost at 6 months. Well, you're over.
For years, our council struggled to keep that between 22 and 25%. And in the past 2 fiscal years, last year it was, I believe, 51%. The year before it was in the 40s range, and now it's 56%. I just honestly and totally believe that is an indication of good, solid fiscal management by your council in the finances of the town. 56%. Thank you.
Yeah, and being a beach town, so to speak, you know, you have to look at 6 months to 9 months because of unforeseen things that come about. Because if indeed a hurricane comes through, FEMA does not always follow up within 6 months. So you have to have that luxury there. Okay, let's turn to page 19 briefly. Look at the top, the outstanding debt. And Steve, you may want to cover that.
Well,
About the decrease.
about the decrease, I'll be glad to, or you can't, either one. Basically, just for the public's knowledge, the town of Oak Island's total long-term debt outstanding decreased by $5,725,638, or roughly 5.28% during the past fiscal year.
Would you repeat that, please?
The town of Oak Island's total long-term debt outstanding decreased by $5,725,638, or 5.28% during the past fiscal year. And this is primarily due to the town's efforts to pay its existing debt and refrain from issuance of any new debt, which I don't think anybody was really interested in, I don't believe. The town debt associated with governmental activities decreased $1,555,214, or 13.7%. So, while the debt of the town business activities decreased by 4.3% as well. So that's a nice chunk, I would say, don't you think, John?
Very nice.
Yeah, okay.
While at the same time increasing our unappropriated fund balance by an additional 5% over last year.
And this MD&A, as we call it, which was provided by Mr. Foster and Mr. Hatton, is good information for council to read and understand what's going on. It has a good history of what's happened and what is expected to happen. So let's briefly turn to page 21 and find out where we were at year end. On page 21, we have a statement of net position. You'll notice this is a statement of assets and liabilities at June 30, 2014. We have governmental activities, and then we have the business type activities, which is water, wastewater, stormwater. Looking down the assets, just briefly, we see current assets at over $16 million in the governmental activities, over $33 million in the business type activities. And then we look down at the current liabilities. We see $2,500,000 in the governmental activities, a little over $8 million in the business type activities. And when you look at a statement of net position or a balance sheet, as we used to call it, you want to compare your current assets to your current liabilities. And you can look at that ratio and tell that both areas are in excellent shape. Even comparing cash to the current liabilities in each area. So you were in good shape at June 30, 2014. Okay? Let's turn to page 35, unless there's some questions about that. Just want to go over the major revenue source of the town. On page 35, this is the analysis of the current tax levy. We look down, you can look at the property valuation there on the first line, and the rate of 27.5 per hundred. The amount of the levy, including motor vehicles. Midway down, we see our net levy, and then we see the amount collected, but more importantly, we see the percentage collected, and that's almost 96%. So things are doing well in the tax department. Okay, there are a few issues that have to be handled, and I don't know if Mr. Foster wants to mention that or not, or talk about it. Or...
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Yeah, we recognize the fact that collections need to be beefed up. Ms. Harris, where are you at? Stand up so everybody can see you. This lady right here is on the trail of collecting uncollected taxes. That is her charge in life, and she's trying to make a really good stab at it. This past week, she was pretty successful in a number of large accounts, or working on it and getting there. So I want to thank her for her efforts, and we have a good customer service staff also that's working on this same thing. I think that Ms. Harris expressed a need for probably some help in that department. Upcoming budget year, these collections are a very difficult, tedious process. It's very labor intensive, but it's something that we're going to have to pursue and need to pursue. And I want to thank Linda for all of her efforts in that. And staff, both. Thank you, Linda. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Steve. Of course, I think Steve and council, I guess, had checked into county collection of taxes in the past and found it easier and cheaper, quite frankly, for it to be handled internally. So.
Well, there was a couple of reasons that. It was less expensive, but also the county didn't want to have to deal with that evil word sewer district fees.
Yes.
And so we decided it would be better just to go ahead and keep the whole thing rather than trying to get the county to do it, which we didn't have any guarantee of how aggressive they would be on doing that. So.
And another issue, if we allowed the county to bill our taxes, they would also collect them. And if someone sent the checks to the lockbox, post office box in Charlotte, or to the county, if somebody owed the county taxes, the county would take theirs first. And if there was any left, they'd send, right, Linda? If there's any left, they'd send it to us for our taxes. So even though someone meant to pay the current year's county and town, the county could take their money first and we get what's left over. So that's one thing we would have to look very deeply at if we ever allowed them to bill our taxes for us.
Like vultures on the bones.
Hey, they'll get their money.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayor, that's all I have unless there are some questions or have any additional comments from anyone.
The total property valuation for the town of Oak Island, this was fiscal 2014, was $2.5 billion. Now, They didn't make much noise about it. We didn't hear about it from the tax assessor, but we're in a tax revaluation year this year. They have not sent us our tax rolls. So we don't know what that total property tax valuation, and we're gonna need your help, and we're gonna need Linda's help, and everybody's help, and David Hatton's help, and once again, explaining to everybody what happens in a tax revaluation year when they have to set a revenue neutral tax rate. We're gonna be facing that again this year as soon as the county sends us our, when are they gonna send it, Steve? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. David, where you, Hatton? Have you heard anything? Yeah, it's been quiet up there, and we
So
haven't
they-
gotten anything from them.
I know that at the January Commissioners' meeting, they approved the tax roll presented by the tax collector, so perhaps we can get a copy of that,
We'll see what we can
even
do
though they
about that.
haven't issued it officially. Anybody have any questions for the auditors, please?
I don't.
Yes, please.
He said he did not.
I said, no, I don't.
Oh, okay, I thought you said
There is
I
one,
do.
one more thing about the enterprise fund. And you remember that we had 3 increases in the rates or the sewer district fee? Well, there's a, and Dave, you may want to chime in on this, but the reason it's negative is because the board decided after our consultant Doug Carter and Ralph Tellis told us that we needed to increase it significantly, and the board chose to go 3 separate payments instead of one big payment. So they decided it would be okay to do the 3, and then the third one should get us back up to where we need to be back on plane as far as paying for the system. So in this, you'll notice, I think there was a negative number in that for liabilities over assets.
Yes.
But that was due to the fact that they had anticipated that. And the third increase is probably gonna get that back on plane where it needs to be. So.
It was a significant improvement over last year.
Oh, yeah, it's better than what it was last year for sure.
What he said
Absolutely.
was it was a significant improvement over last year.
That's right.
Well, he just doesn't have a mic.
I guess.
I just wanted to point that out because there was a negative on that one part, so.
Mayor,
What was the percentage of the debt reduced? That was 5.
5.28.
The long-term outstanding debt was decreased by 5.28%. The governmental activities debt was decreased by 13.7%, and business-type activities was decreased by 4.30%.
And I'd like to thank David Hatton for coming in cold turkey and helping with this, Dave. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it kind of almost made that transition from Bonnie over to David seamless. It was like he just slid right in there.
they were both very helpful to us.
Oh, yeah.
So
They both are perfectionists.
we appreciate them, and Steve, and any more questions?
The LGC, we have to send this audit to them, and then they will approve it.
That's right.
And then it'll be, there's been a lot of posting on Facebook about our audit is not on whatever website, they post all this governmental information. And I've tried to make people understand, this is the audit for fiscal 2014, we're still in the middle of 2015. You can't post the financial information for this year until it's completed. So as soon as the LGC approves this, it will be posted on that, whatever that government website is.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for all the hard work and coming out and doing the presentation tonight. Thanks. Okay, next is adjustments and approval of the agenda. With council consensus, please, I would like to add to the closed session subparagraph 3 as well as A6, that is potential litigation. And we already moved new business number 1 up to the presentation with Moffett and Nickel. Anyone else, Councilman Wayne?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. Under old business, number 2, I'd like to add approval of the contract for Holland Consulting Planners.
Has everybody received a copy of that so they can peruse it?
It was in the email.
Okay. And for the public, Holland Consulting is the comprehensive land use plan in the UDO that council just approved recently. Any other amendments, please? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended, please.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
We have a motion, have a second by Councilor Kaiser. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Next, we have public comments. You have 5 minutes to speak, please. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address, and the clerk will tell me, Malcolm, if you go over 5 minutes or not. First person to sign up is Malcolm Morrison.
Before you start your timer, I'd like to see if I understand this correctly. You've already approved the contract that was down here in old business, or new business, excuse me, approval of the contract with Cortrell Contracting and also the contract with Dale Cordy?
Correct.
Okay, well, that's what my comments are on, so let me put them out there anyway, because I'd like some answers.
So she can start the timer. Name and address, please.
And Malcolm Morrison, 119 Southwest 21st Street. And as it was briefed earlier, the cost of that birdwatching project is $109,654 spread out over 3 years. And on the agenda here, it shows, or the document supporting the agenda, 24 surveys in 12 months, 2 a month. So a question I have, how much time is used for allotted to a survey? Is it 1 day or is it 2 days? You know, we go through 1 day, or is it just a walkthrough all the way around, and that constitutes a survey? And then it has to be documented. I imagine they'll take some pictures if they see some of the endangered birds there, and maybe some comments, and that's written up. Now, what I was wanting to bring up was that I thought there was an opportunity to save some money here. There's $109,000 there. But before I get to that, what I was looking at was the Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, their recommendations to the Corps of Engineers. They dated January 9th, 2015. And so I'd like to know if, when you get to that, did the Corps of Engineers include the wildlife's recommendations into the terms of this, contract that we have? Because they had some good recommendations in there. So let me move on to what they say in here in their recommendations or in their background. It says the only thing that's likely to be adversely impacted is the piping plover. And they had another bird in there, a little red bird of some type.
Red knot.
Yeah.
Red knot.
And manatee in there, huh? Okay, that's not in the bird watching section there, but storks and things like that. But, so there's only one bird we're concerned with that's adversely impacted as they see it. Now we'll go on into another part of it, of their comments, is they talk about, this is not bird watching, but it sets the stage for what I want to say. Turtle nesting survey, and they go through all of that, of what's going to be reported and the data that's going to be in there. And they say, acquisition of ready available sea turtle nesting data from qualified sources, and here's the important point, volunteer organizations, other agencies, is acceptable. Volunteers who are not paid, okay? So I was thinking of birds, $109,000, volunteers that are not paid, we could save $109,000, but you just approved the contract. But I would like for you to look at it and see if there's any way,
Could I comment on that?
Please.
just vote on the
Clarify.
contract.
Yeah, let me explain, Malcolm. I mean, I've done.
My time is cut, okay.
That's time. This is for the audience, just so they'll know. In order to meet the or the conditions that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has put on us, as well as several other agencies, we have to have qualified ornithologists, people that have degrees in spotting and identifying birds, keeping the data. It's a little bit more than just identifying a particular species, but that's part of the thing, and that's the reason it's costing a little bit
Contact
more.
anybody in Audubon to see if we could get that. They
You
would
know
like
an
to have some
ornithologist that
revenue.
we could use?
I'm not in it, I may subscribe to it, but I'm not one of those.
Anyway,
bird people.
I'm sorry, I just wanted
That's
to mention
fine.
that we.
You have used 2 minutes of your comment time.
okay.
I had her stop it.
right.
You have 3 minutes
Okay.
left.
And so there's an annual report that's required in several areas that they're talking about. Escarpment survey at more than 18 inches and 100 feet, that has to be reported. Compaction survey, if it's not compacting, you have to stop immediately and notify sources, okay? Sea turtle nesting data, which I already addressed, and the piping plover or red knot observations. So I was just asking that, could we look at getting volunteers, but I guess it's a little bit late.
One last thing.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Answers question. I think, Malcolm, we are gonna be looking at using our turtle.
Malcolm, are you listening?
I think we are looking to help, volunteers helping us with the turtle data as well. Excellent group.
Okay, next to sign up is Lynn Gullich, please.
My name's Lynn Gulledge. I'm a resident at 126 Southwest 5th Street. I've been on the island full-time for 9+ years, and I am a real estate broker here on the island. I've come to talk to the council, Mayor Wallace, to you regarding, under new business, the ordinance with regards, in particular, from our vantage, the sewer tap and impact fees. If I'm reading correctly, I'm kind of like this gentleman here. You've already approved, is that right, my reading, the change of fee schedule for the fiscal year to the 10,000, is that right? No. No? Okay, so this is just up for discussion at this point.
That's correct.
All right, great. What we're trying to do is make business a little easier to conduct and have some consistency. The sewer tap is really the focus. The water tap is not. I know there's some of the comments talking about the real estate agents wanting to mandate or require the payment of that tap or impact upon sale of a property. We're really just looking for the option. I've been through numerous scenarios, not even over the last 6 weeks, if not year, of whether fees would be taken, would not be taken, mandated to be paid, refused to be taken, and we do need some consistency. And I think a lot of people stepped into it, and we're trying to get this cleared up. But I guess the original sewer assessment, $4,200. You want a new one now that's not in the ground? Last figure I was told, $8,142. I've seen fees lower, $5,142. Those over the last 6 weeks. We do need some consistency. Not sure where the new number proposed for the physical budget of 10,000 comes from. A flat fee, I think, is a great idea. That increase of 22.3%, again, not sure where that comes from. We're just trying to move commerce along on the island, and we need some help. We need some consistency. Person wants to buy a lot, they ought to know what the cost of the lot is. Not buy it now and you'll find out later what it really costs you. There are lots on this island that do not have sewer taps, and we need to be able to pay for a sewer tap. not at some future rate that nobody knows what it'll be. It's hard to sell these lots that have been combined or separated or need to be separated, and you can't tell them as their agent, as someone that's supposed to be knowledgeable of the market, what the cost is. And even coming to the town, at times you can get different answers, although people are trying real hard to get the right answers to us. There does need to be, I think, some consistency and a flat fee there. So I'm encouraging that we pass an ordinance or the ability to pay the sewer tap upon sale of a lot. It's optional. You don't have to mandate it, but give a person an option to pay it. And then to come back and say, well, if you're not building within a year, then we're going to charge you whatever that difference is. I'm not so sure about that. Again, it's an open box. It's kind of like, I know there was a House Speaker, Pelosi, that said pass it, and then you can kind of find out what got in there. We need to know what's in there, okay? And we appreciate your help, but we need a fee, and we need the ability to pay these fees. I'm a little confused when money gets refused from the town.
Thank you, Lynn. We will be discussing that.
Okay.
And the fact that it doesn't become a fee until you decide to build. We'll be discussing that in depth here in just a few minutes.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the efforts, and I mean, I know there's a lot of work going on right now in that direction, and we need that help for everybody's sake. So, thanks.
Let me ask her a question.
Sure, Lynn? Councilor Medlin wants to ask you a question. This won't count towards your public comments time.
Sure.
Just so everyone will know, what is the advantage of prepaying the fee at the time of closing? Is there an advantage?
Why don't we wait till we discuss that on the agenda, because that was going to be one of my questions.
Well, that's my question now, and she should be able to answer it.
Well, if you prepay it, you know what you're paying. That's the biggest thing.
Okay. So that's the main
and
deal.
There's some assistance for some buyers in financing, for example, the purchase of a lot. These costs can be incorporated. It actually facilitates commerce. It allows a person to move forward with it because it's all part of the negotiations.
Well, we will be discussing the fact that we don't have one set sewer tap fee because of all the differences of situations on, vacuum section, gravity section, how many bedrooms. It's higher if you have 7 bedrooms than if you had 4.
Right.
So we don't have a, quote, sewer impact fee, tap and impact fee that can be paid until you discern the particulars.
It's based on what you're going to build on the lot.
Right. We don't want to give them the impression that this is all they're going to pay. It may be double that by the time they build. So we'll be discussing it in full here in just a few
Mayor,
minutes.
I've got some staff back here, got some information, and probably
Yeah,
elaborate
we can
on
bring them up when we discuss it.
We'll get around to it, yeah.
Hopefully, everybody will understand this other confusing issue and fee schedule we have on our books.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all that's signed up to speak at general comments tonight. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak, please? If not, we'll go to the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Madam Mayor,
Please.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Medlin. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. We have no items removed from the consent agenda. Committee appointments. We have one unexpired term on the Emergency Services Advisory Board, ending June 2016. We have an application by Mr. Charles White. All those in favor of appointing Mr. White, please. Pardon, did y'all? Okay, it is unanimous. They do like this. And I don't know if they're raising their hands or not.
I raised my hand high, Betty.
Next is committee reports. I believe we have a committee report by Roseanne and then Helen.
Roseanne Fortner, 113 Paula Circle, for the Oak Island Beach Preservation Society. I was asked by one member of the town staff last week
what is the relationship between beach preservation and the town of Oak Island? And I was proud to say that we are a committee of the town. This is something that, for which we are valued and respected, and we represent the town very proudly. We currently have more than 300 memberships, paid up and current. Those are primarily family memberships, so it represents way more than 300 people. These are people who have trusted us to put their funding into a collective pot, which is the Beach Preservation Trust Fund for beach preservation projects. Along the way, besides giving the public a chance to contribute to beach preservation specifically, it gives, we, with our activities and education, make the public aware of personal responsibilities for beach care. This is a high calling that we feel for ourselves in the Beach Preservation Society, and we are proud, as I said, to be members of a committee of the town of Oak Island. I have 2 items to report tonight. The first is that the member letter went out this week with the ticket opportunity in it for our wine tasting fundraiser. This is the primary event for raising money for the Beach Preservation Trust Fund. It is a big deal. We sell only 150 tickets, and we offer those first to those who have paid up memberships. So we hope you got a letter and we'll respond to it quickly. If we have any of those tickets left at the time that March 15th rolls around, we will offer them on sale to the public. I thank the mayor and a couple of members of council for being regular participants in the wine tasting fundraiser. I hope we'll see you there again, and I hope that people who are watching on television and in the audience will also be there to enjoy this wonderful world tour of exceptional wines this year. We are featuring 13 quality wines from 13 countries, and the date is April 25th from noon to 2:30 at the Island Way Restaurant. Our auction is the way that you stock your homes with new beach paraphernalia, buy your Christmas presents, contribute to auction things that other people can buy. So we would welcome any kinds of skills that you would like to offer as things that we can bid on for the auction, or any of the particular things that you have that we could put in there to help raise additional funds for the Beach Preservation Trust Fund. The second thing that I'd like to announce is that we are taking this opportunity to announce that we will be hiring an intern who will serve as a part-time employee of the town of Oak Island for the summer. We're looking for a college student, either a junior, senior, or a recent graduate of college, to assist with 3 groups within the town. The responsibilities will be for a part-time job, 20 hours a week, and we will be able to pay for that this time. They will be serving with Parks and Recreations, new education opportunities, beach preservation itself, and the Oak Island Beach Ambassadors. We will make this public, and you may talk to me about any of the qualifications that you think you might have, any possible people that you might like to recommend for that. An application will be coming out before the end of the week. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to represent beach preservation.
Thank you, Roseanne. Anybody have any questions for Roseanne? Okay. Helen, I think you have a presentation for the Capital Improvement Committee.
Good evening. I'm Helen Cashville, 3407 East Yacht Drive. I'm the chairman of the Capital Improvement Committee, and we'll be meeting tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock here in the council chambers. And we're going to have as a special guest Howie Franklin, who's the director of the Brunswick County Airport. And I would certainly like to encourage anybody that wants to in the public and on the council that can to attend. If you haven't had a chance to hear Howie, you're missing a great opportunity. I really would like to encourage you to come and hear his new plans for the expansion of that airport facility. This committee has started a new program that not only to deal with the financial needs of the town, but we are inviting outside agencies and businesses to come and tell us how we may be able to improve our services, attract new businesses, and what they deem to be the biggest problems for sustaining the needs of the town. Last month, the Chamber of Commerce presented their views to the community, and I'd like to thank the council members that were present because they took several of the items that the Chamber suggested back to their retreat this past month. We also had David Hatton, the Finance Director, to give us an overview of our finances. It was clear, concise, and very informative. We've discovered that only looking at ourselves can we really believe who we are and what we are. And so rather than standing and preaching and listening and telling you what we want to hear from them. So we would encourage everybody to come out on the second Wednesday to Capital Improvement Committee and listen to our special guests. Thanks again.
Thank you, Helen. Is there anyone else from any committee that needs to make a report, please? Administrative reports. Mr. Foster, please.
Okay, Mayor, I'll be brief. A few things. I'd like to thank our crew that helped with the George and John show with the pier situation. I think they got it done, and I believe, John, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that the restaurant is now open. Yeah, and doing business. They didn't lose any business. I just want to make sure everybody knows they didn't lose any business during the repairs, that we were able to do the whole job during the time that the pier was closed. So they're back in, and the cost of that project will be around $30,000. I think in looking at how much we spent on the pier, we spent more this year than I guess all the collective years going back since 2009. So we're doing our best to try to keep it up, try to keep it maintained. It's an old pier, but we're doing what we can with it. Again, just mentioning this, the state did award us the $252,000 for the Eastern Channel project, and I think we have a resolution on later on the agenda for thanking the county for graciously giving us another $500,000 toward the project. Golf course reuse update. The Clean Water Trust Fund has given the town an extension on completing the golf course reuse project the town requested. The only reason we requested that is just as a safety net to get us through. We still, according to David, says that we'll have the project finished by March 31st and possibly the swerve plant being ready to roll. So again, that's the last piece of the puzzle in our ongoing sewer construction. I'd also like to mention that due to a lot of questions that most recently, especially in the last several days, has come up, work on trying to come up with some way to get out to the public what the town can and we cannot do as far as developmental regulations. And I've asked the staff to start putting together a workshop on what the town can and cannot do in regard to development issues in town. Get a feeling that there's a general misconception or misunderstanding about what needs to be addressed, so that everyone knows the bounds of various regulations that affect the citizens of the town. This workshop, as I see it, would cover camera rules, regulations, stormwater requirements, regulations, other regulations, code issues, tree and vegetation requirements, FEMA flood requirements, the town ordinances that affect development. And I'd also like to include another often overlooked in developmental issues, that there's a big difference between private property and public property and what we can do in regulating both. I think there's a misconception that we can maybe do more on private property than what actually legally we can do. So in any event, I would like to invite have the staff put this together as soon as they can. I want to invite in any outside regulatory agencies that the staff feels necessary to answer any questions. And I hope that we can put this to rest as far as what the town's responsibilities are and what we can't do. Software project, we're moving ahead with that. We had several of the new segments already addressed and we're ahead of schedule. That's it.
May I note, please, that the golf course, the swerve project That is from that grant from Clean Water Management Trust Fund that has been delayed, extended, delayed, and extended. This year is 10 years since the original grant was issued, signed by then Mayor Helen Cashwell. We've been here a long time.
Madam Mayor, I've got one more thing, and Chris is gonna come up and talk about the progress on the paramedic level training and how we're doing on that.
Yeah, Chris, Danny gave us an overview of the DHHS and the OEMS and all that. Can you review that, please?
Well, it's simple. DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, will not give, to come and do an inspection to approve you to carry narcotics until the state gives you a paramedic certificate. The state won't give you a paramedic certificate until DHHS comes and does an inspection.
I told y'all that, and nobody believed me last night. You thought I was making it up, but it's true.
No, it is the truth. But in any event, the long and the short is that we have gotten approval to run at a paramedic level without narcotics, just temporarily. That will enable the state to send us a certificate saying we're paramedic level, which will then in turn allow DHHS to come in and do their inspection, and then we'll be able to apply for our narcotics license. So basically, that's where we stand. However, as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, I had an appointment with DHHS to come in on March 25th, February 25th, and they called today and canceled. They did not give me another date yet, so hopefully I'll have another date by the end of the week. But that's not going to hold us up as far as putting our order together for all the medications that we need to run paramedic level. We just won't have the narcotics, but medications is what saves people's lives. I've never known a narcotic to save somebody's life. It's going to make them feel better and make them more comfortable, but, it's not going to save a life. So we can still move forward. Hopefully, we'll be running paramedic level by mid-March to April 1st. Probably sometime a month or two after that is when we'll be able to add the narcotics to our arsenal, so to speak. So that's where we stand on that. And as far as the paramedic class goes, that has all been finalized as well. First day of class is March 2nd at Station 2. I don't know how many people signed up yet. I mean, I know how many we have in the class, but it's open, it's open enrollment. So we have 10 spots in the class for us, and there's another 15 open. They expect the class to be full, but that starts on March 2nd, Monday. So everything is going as planned, a little bit later than we thought, but it's moving along.
Thanks, Chris.
That's all.
Okay. Oh, I forgot. I was supposed to tell the manager to thank whatever staff assisted on Sunday. I actually called the manager myself. There was a deer that was hit, and right in the middle of Oak Island Drive. And so people were trying to get around it, called the manager, and they were right out there to get the deer, bless its heart. And then an acquaintance of mine that lives on Oak Island Drive asked that I please give her compliments to our public works staff, because on Sunday, a red fox was hit in front of her house. And she said they were out there in no time. She actually stood over the red fox until they could get there. So compliments to the public works staff. Thank you, John, and whoever went out and got all those. Mr. Eads, please.
We have a few things to talk about in closed session, but I just, if you recall, last summer we talked about a case that I'm working with Emerald Owl on that dealt with the towns and cities' rights to regulate the dry sand beach, and we got an act passed. That underlying case, though, we were successful at the trial level. It's now up on appeal. The record on appeal was signed off on this morning, so I suspect the briefing will occur over the next 30 to 60 days. And then the Court of Appeals will hear it sometime midsummer, but that has the potential to affect all coastal towns, and I'll keep the board apprised as that progresses through the Court of Appeals.
Any questions for the attorney, please? Okay, we're right before we go into the old business section, let's take a quick break. We've been in session almost. Okay, we will call the meeting back to order. We'll go into our old business section of the meeting. The business section number 1 is discussion of the newly amended polycart regulations by Mayor Pro Tempore Weinkauf. Please.
Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, I had a talk with Steve about this, and I'll let him go over just a couple little details because I don't think it's really a big discussion.
Okay.
Okay, the main thing that we were talking about, like, as far as the ordinance itself, is maybe a modification on that, and that would be to change the fine for that particular offense from a $50 a day fine per day, just a straight $50 fine, or if the board would choose, or whatever Councilor Weinkauf would suggest, maybe to 25, and use the same procedure that was used at North Topsail Beach. In this case, what would happen is, if there's a violation, the first time out, it would be a warning citation, just to let people know they can't do this. The second time out would all of a sudden, that would become either a $25 or $50 fine. At that point, if they don't pay that within 30 days, we send that to our collection agency, and we have them collect the fine. And if it occurs again, we could in the future maybe get an increase if we wanted to, but for the time being, just keep it either $25 or $50 fine.
Suggestion by you and Councilor Weinkauf that the council approve reducing the fine to to $25 per occurrence instead of per day.
50 or 25, up to y'all, whatever you want to do.
Council, what's the council's?
Well, I had made some notes in my book, to lower that to $25. And a freebie, the first time would be a warning or a notice of violation, and then the fines would start after that, so yeah, I'm good with that.
Consensus from council that the manager work to bring back to the March meeting a suggested amendment to the ordinance with a warning first and $25 fine per occurrence? Okay. And special note, this is a civil violation, correct? All civil violation fines are forwarded to the Brunswick County School System. We don't get any of that money.
No.
Make that perfectly clear. No?
Civil fines stay here.
That's
Civil
right.
fines stay here? What goes to the
Anything that you can invoke the court system on the criminal side.
The Brunswick County? I thought civil violations went to the schools.
Civil violations stay here, criminal violations go to the schools.
Speeding tickets.
Speeding tickets, oh, okay, very good.
Think about it, the concept is if the state can punish them criminally, the state's involved, so the money should go to a state agency like that.
Okay, all right. So this would be civil and it would not go to the school system?
Correct.
Okay, all right, it would help with our costs. Okay.
I just have one question.
Please.
Who we're gonna fine?
The owner of the property, correct?
I don't know that
Oh,
you
I
can
mean-
find anybody else.
The owner of the property is ultimately responsible in North Carolina, yeah. Okay.
What the property owner does with his or her rental agency and his or her tenants is between them.
Yeah.
But vis-a-vis the town, it's us and the property owner.
Okay,
If I had rental property, I would make sure my rental agent and or my tenants were aware of that, and I'd pass those fines on if they violated it.
How's that worked out so far on leaving trash on the street? We find anybody or?
well, I don't think we were gonna begin strict enforcement of this until April.
April 1st.
Yeah, April 1st.
I understand, I'm saying, what about leaving trash on the street, like people, couches and one thing, have we been enforcing that?
Oh, that's a different issue
I
with brown and white
understand
goods.
it, I'm just asking, have we been enforcing that, yes or no?
Yes,
Josh, you want to come up and address that for us, please?
Short answer is yes. And we have, well, I guess we can give the example of Oak Island Drive last summer. A young lady moved out of her address. By that afternoon, Development Services had, and Mr. Foster or myself, we had been to the county courthouse, filed charges against them, mobilized 2 of John Michaud's dump trucks and a backhoe. And by the time we got there, they were notified of what was getting ready to happen to them. I think they were looking at about $900 a day for that, because each item is a $50 fine, and they had their own people there removing it.
So how many citations have we written since that ordinance came into effect?
There's 2 different ordinances.
I'm asking about this, putting trash and sofas and one thing on the street.
putting
Talking about
trash.
Brian, the
We've
sofas
seen,
and- Yeah.
we've seen a huge reduction in about, since Mr. Foster's been around, and we've had the backing of council, we've seen a huge reduction in it.
Understand, how many citations have we issued?
Violations, I'd have to get my spreadsheet. I mean, it's,
Why don't you review the process?
Yeah.
If you can find the owner of it and the process of notice of violation and,
it's a, we've probably, I think we had 137 violations. I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me. I wasn't prepared for this question. But there's quite a few. We have certain sites right now where we are working out with the tax department. We've got $6,000 worth of fines on one property right now. And as soon as we can get the necessary systems, because ours won't handle it, to where we can bill that properly, we will bill that either via a tax lien or whatever the general statutes will allow us to do so. We have quite a few that we write. Chad is now doing it. I was doing it, and I would say you would write 10 notice of violations in a given week. During the summer, you're probably going to write 20, 25. The process is not as, it's not, first of all, every letter that goes to them has to be registered and certified. It has to go to the property owner, and some of these are businesses, LLCs, corporations. You allow for 10 days for them to remedy or abate it themselves. If you're doing standard mail, which is what we do, and you don't hear back from them in that 10 days, you have to allow them a total of 13, because there's a 3-day lag or for the mail. For the first 13 days, you can't impose the fines. The next 10 additional days, it's $50 per item per day. And at the end of that period, that's when the fines and stuff stop, because the general statute 14-4 only allows each fine to be $50, no more than $50, and the max of all those fines accumulatively is $500. So that's where we're limited to. But if you've got 10 paint cans, I can charge you $50 per can. And we do that on a regular basis.
And there's another problem in as much as a lot of this stuff that ends on the side of the roads, they dump it in front of an empty lot or somewhere where you can't identify who exactly did it. We started using some deer cameras, I think, but they stole a deer camera.
Stole the deer cameras.
you're kidding.
I am as sure as I'm
Is that
standing
another
here.
$50 fine?
They stole our
Stealing the
deer camera. So, get a bigger ladder to put them up next time, I guess. But there's been a great reduction in it. One of the things you'll see is John Michelle's guys pick it up. I mean, if we can't determine who owns the trash, we're still paying for it through our tax dollars by having Public Works pick it up. And they are great with it. I mean, it's a simple, I know that if I go to 4 houses in front of it, somebody did it. But if they don't admit it and the neighbor doesn't blame them and I've got no proof, it's our baby to pick up.
We also took one and went to court with, when was that? It was about a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, the court.
Where was that? Y'all went to court without me?
Yeah, we felt lucky that day.
We used our other attorney.
Yeah, use this other civil attorney over here.
We were feeling real lucky that day, so we don't have to pay him to go to court, but anyway, go ahead.
We didn't actually have to go all the way to court. We got it corrected ahead of time.
Well, I was talking about the Fish Factory Road.
Fish Factory. Oh, is that, I
No.
can't say his name.
No.
So, yeah, but no, okay. That was handled elsewhere.
And while we switch to this subject, please note once again the hours that our employees are at the Airport Road facility. You can take all of your paint can, your brown and white goods, your TVs, whatever you've got. They will take it, and they will not charge you a fee for taking it. You don't have to take it to the county landfill and pay the tip fee, correct? That's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Friday, correct, John? And
Yes.
the first Saturday of every month, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Same hours.
Same hours. So take it up there. They've got employees to help you take it out of your truck.
A lot of the people are also, they just don't know, because for forever and ever, Long Beach, which we're not Long Beach anymore, Used to allow it. It was just part of your services. And if you've owned a house down here for 40 years and your kids are the only ones using it now, you just tell them to drag it out to the road. Well, when we get one of those situations, we talk with the owner, and we actually work with other contractors. And our first option is not to use the town resource. It's to, hey, I understand you don't understand this, you don't get it, you didn't know the rules had changed. Here's a few names to call, and those people will work out a monetary agreement and get the trash removed as well, too.
And you have to admit, the town looks a lot cleaner than it used to. We don't have anywhere near the number of old sofas and recliners and patio furniture and broken up children's toys what always got me was the carpet padding and the old carpet. When they replace their carpet, they just throw that out rolled up on the side of the road and leave it there.
We still got some of it, but I think we've pretty much got it under control.
Okay? Okay, so consensus from council. Staff will bring back next month a suggestion on amending the ordinance for the trash and polycart pickups, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Next, under old business, is the consideration of the contract with Holland Consulting.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, last Friday, Councilor Painter and myself met with Holland, along with Josh and Steve. And it was a very good meeting. We laid out some groundwork about what we'd like to see happen as far as meetings with the planning board, meeting with the council all at one time, so that way everybody's on the same page. But I also thought it'd be nice to be able to have different members from the community join in and be part of this whole process. I asked them about having a member from real estate join in as an ad hoc committee, and I'd like to suggest that to the committee, to the council tonight, that we advertise for an ad hoc committee to be part of this. It'll be a member from the business, 3 members of the general public, 1 from the old Long Beach area, 1 from the Yopon area, and 1 from the mainlands to be part of this. Also, staff, David Kelly, John Michaud, Steve, Josh, and then have everybody where they're participating in this new ordinance and this land use plan, because it's going to be what everybody in this town wants. We don't want nothing behind closed doors to discuss. We don't want planning behind closed doors unless everybody in this town can have their input. Every meeting that we have will be open to the public. I've asked that every meeting be televised. That way, if you cannot make it to a meeting, you can watch it on Channel 8. And I think overall, we've had a lot of problems with, once the sewer system went in, we've seen it with the 15-bedroom houses. We've seen it with other things where our ordinance are not in compliance right now. We learn by when somebody does something, we try to correct it, and it's out of our hands. I think this is something that the planning board recommended. I think it's something that we need to do as a community to be able to look into the future, to put our ordinance out on the table, our land use plan that everybody in the town wants their town to be. And I would like to approve this contract, ask the council to approve this contract not to exceed $137,500, and I'm going to make a motion to approve Holland to get this.
May I ask, please, as far as, I love the idea of an ad hoc committee to work with Holland Associates. Could I ask that you request the town manager to work with the town clerk and develop a charge for that committee?
Absolutely.
And the makeup of the committee, and bring it back to the March meeting?
Yes, ma'am. And also, I would like people who are not sitting on any committee right now to be part of this ad hoc, except for, there's a couple of people left out. Environmental, I want somebody from the environmental committee on that. And that's a big plus. So I'd like them to work on this charter and come back to council with the charter. And
Did you mention the planning board?
well, the planning board I did mention,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to make a note on your motion to approve the contract. In the contract, under Citizen Participation Plan, the first paragraph says, effective continued citizen participation must be sustained throughout the process of developing the comprehensive land use plan. This effort should be specifically defined in a citizen participation plan, and they list that plan with methods to get information out to the public. I like that.
Could I ask Counselor Weinkoff if it'd be okay if we got Holland to help us with this charge?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Yes, we did, at our meeting, we talked, are we talking about the?
Tell everybody who you are.
I am Landon Holland with Holland Consulting Planners, the firm that is being recommended to work with the town on the comprehensive land use plan as well as the Unified Development Ordinance. Specifically, you talking about the committee? Is that what we're?
That's what we're talking about right now.
Well, in the meeting, we talked about some specific entities being on that committee. Josh just referenced an email that I have not had a chance to review. So, I think if you would allow us to talk tomorrow and get back to Mr. Foster and to Josh and give you a specific list of entities, be it, we recommended 9 to 12 individuals. So what we can do is kind of come up with the specific committees that we want representation from, how many council members, if any, how many planning board members, if any, and bring that specific recommendation back to the board for consideration in March.
And also a charge to go along with that,
Okay.
a specific charge.
I got you.
Okay. And, Mr. Eads, have you reviewed this contract that Councilor Weinkoff is suggesting that we approve tonight?
It wasn't on tonight's agenda, so I wasn't prepared to, I was going to suggest,
You can make it subject to.
like we generally do, subject to review.
Subject-
I've seen their contracts before, so I don't anticipate any problem.
Would you like to restate your motion, Councilor Weinkoff, that it includes?
That it includes the approval by the town attorney.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Councilor Painter. Any of you guys have any questions? Anybody? If not, all those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very
And thanks for
much.
all the work on this with getting the public involved. That's
Absolutely, and
tantamount.
we strive for public participation, and we look forward to working with the town, and we will get with Josh and Mr. Foster tomorrow and iron out these details for March.
Thank you. Next, we will go into the new business section. We've already considered new business item number 1.
Madam Mayor, I
please.
don't believe at that point we had approved the agenda, so just out of abundance of caution, can we just ratify that prior motion and vote? Lisa, do you? Because I don't think the agenda was approved at that point, and since it is a contract, I want to make sure it's within
Okay.
A motion to ratify.
May I have a motion to ratify the action of council under the presentations portion of our agenda, please?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Medlin. Have a second? Second by Councilor Weinkoff. Any discussion? All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, number 2, adoption of a resolution of appreciation for Brunswick County's contribution to the Eastern Channel Project. Mr. Foster?
Yes, Mayor, I added that too. I think it's appropriate for us to send something to our county commissioners, thanking them for their consideration of assisting us in this project. And I just thought it would be appropriate to do that, and that's the reason I included, and I would like to thank Court Stites for putting this together. She's our resolution master, so she did it.
And we don't need to include it in the resolution, but I'd like to make an expression of special thanks to Ann Hardy, the county manager. She worked diligently on finding a way to allow the county commissioners to find some money to participate in this project.
Madam Mayor,
Pardon?
I move to adopt a resolution of appreciation for Brunswick County's contribution to the Eastern Channel Project as presented.
We have a motion. We have a second. Second by Councilor Scott. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. This next item, the approval of amendments, section 3038, on requiring on the building permit and the tap and impact fees on the sewer. It's what Lynn Golish spoke about during public comments. We've had a suggestion from the clerk and the manager, and I could not agree more. This is going to require a lot of discussion, a lot of questions. I would like to request that the town council members please forward all of their questions, concerns, and issues to the town manager
You can send-
and to, pardon?
You can send them to Lisa if you like, it me or one, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I was gonna say town manager and the
Okay.
town clerk.
That's fine.
And then I would like for, some way, let's get the word out to the real estate attorneys and to the real estate agents and brokers to please feel free. Lynn, could you help me with that? Counselor Scott, could you help me with that? Sure. Get the word out to all of them to forward their questions and requests and concerns to the town manager and the town clerk. And ask for suggestions from staff. I would like to have suggestions from our utilities department, any questions they have, and I would also like to have any concerns, questions, or requirements that we would need from our finance officer. Because we would be taking people's money and booking it as a liability on their balance sheet if we approve this. And then, if you don't mind, bring back, if you want to include a proposal, bring back any proposal that you would like council to consider in the March meeting. Okay?
Okay.
So we will defer that item until March, until we get the recommendations. Next is number 4, consider removing the Development Services Building from the market. Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you, Mayor Wallace. The reason I brought this up, I'm going to ask perhaps Josh and David Kelly to come up because they have more knowledge on this. There's a well on that property, and there's a 100-foot radius that goes around that well that we are not supposed to have parking on, not supposed to really do anything, but part of the building's built on it.
What is the well? Why is it there?
You'll have to ask David Kelly. I don't know, not a well digger, but.
What was it? I was walking over here.
The well that is on the property, the building services, the old building services, building,
The old town of Yopon and then the town of Oak Island. We had 2 wells. That was one on Trot Street and then one over on the golf course. That was part of the old water system of Yopon. Back in the time, there was a wellhead protection requirement by the state of North Carolina that we had to impose for public water supply. The town did a policy. It was adopted by the state, and it still stands now, and it's a 100-foot setback around that well that you can't put any kind of parking lot or anything that could leak any kind of materials into the ground that could travel into the well water. Now, that was prior to the town running the other line on 41st Street. So we have 2 backup lines now. So if we wanted to, council wanted to come in and abandon the well, that's an option that you can do. But it would take us to contact the public water supply and tell them that you're wanting to abandon the backup emergency source for the island.
in your opinion, we don't need that backup emergency source because we have the backup water line from the county now.
We have 2 water supply lines, yes.
Okay.
And we have, the old Yopon well system, we only produced about 175,000 gallons a day. If we have a storm where everything gets knocked out, I don't think that 175,000 gallons is going to
Okay.
help us. But right now, we have it listed as an emergency backup scenario. That's why the 100-foot setback is still there.
Has it ever been used as an?
The last time the state usually has us pull samples on it every 3 to 5 years. They'll come in and pull a sample, and then if they see something, they'll have us pull a sample back out of the wells. And it was this year, in November, I think, is when we would pull samples again from our 2 wells.
But have we ever had to use that particular
No,
well
we have
as
not
a
used
backup
that.
water supply?
No, we have not used that well since the town combined in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 1998 is when Yopon was switching over to the county water at the same time we were becoming the town.
Okay.
David, the purpose of that well was for backup water source was to fill that water tank?
I mean, that was the original water supply for Yopon.
That water tank now it's holding reused water, is it not?
It is a reused water tank.
So for all practical purposes, it couldn't be used for water supply anyhow because the
state, well,
when we met with the state, when we made that a reused tank, we came up with a procedure to be able to flush that tank if we had to put potable water back into it. We're in a
I'll
dire
let y'all
need.
know if we do that.
We're in a dire need where we need that water. I mean, something else has happened to us.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate any need or scenario where we might need that well? No, sir. Then I make a motion that we abandon the well, that we go through the procedure of abandoning the well, get rid of it.
Second.
I have a motion by Counselor Medlin, a second by Counselor Scott. Any other discussion, please?
What's involved?
We'll make a petition to Public Water Supply. They will send a wellhead protection person to us. They'll come from North Carolina Rural Water. They'll go over for the procedure for abandonment of the well. Public Water Supply will come and we'll fill out some paperwork, show them what our water demand and supplies are, just like we do every year on our annual report anyway. Show them that we have the capability of abandoning the well, we have adequate water. The state would then send the mayor a letter to say, is it still okay for the town to abandon the well? There's a little check system, and then we would abandon the well.
On the property, go ahead.
No, sorry,
But on the property, what will you have to, actually physically?
But, the well will not be, the piping or anything will not be removed. The well house could be removed. The last one that I saw done was in the city of Southport near the Baptist church. And the state made them keep a structure over the wellhead, but let them inactivate it and take the power supply off and the pump head off.
Mayor,
Once
can I
we
ask
do
a
that, we
question?
can utilize that property as we see fit.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Please.
What would it take to reactivate that well at some point down the road?
The reactivation will probably, if we deactivate it and take it totally off, they will make us reclassify it as a new well, and we'll have to go through a permitting process.
But you could do that if you necessary.
We could do it, or we could ask for a different location.
I just thought.
You're only asking about the one on, you're only talking about abandoning the one on Trot Street.
Right.
Behind the Development Service Building.
Yes, sir.
Right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm glad you understand it.
Well, there's some other stuff I want to talk about.
Yeah, next is you wanted to talk about actually removing the building
Well-
from the market or removing the building?
Both.
Okay.
And I'll just start it out saying that the parking for the fire station next door is included on that parcel. And if we sell that parcel, then we don't have enough parking, and that fire station will not be in compliance. And I know we're not using it fully to its extent, but in 30, 35 years, that fire station may be manned. And then we're gonna have to have parking. So Josh, and I told Josh that, I would, rely on him to guide us through this. All this happened before he was here, and we sat there a couple hours and looked at the map. So would you walk everybody through what you told me as far as what kind of parking we should have had for the CO for that building?
Well, I've been through the file, and the only reference to parking that I can find was a note by somebody named FS, and I don't know who that was. Mr. Edwards might remember FS. Yes, she'd approved 14 spaces for the building. We ended up with 5. And the rest of them were what we would call remote parking. We didn't have it. The building was there. Under our ordinance, section 18145, remote parking spaces, no more than 20% of your total required parking can be on a different parcel of land. It's 7 lots away, all different parcels. We never combined the parcels like we should have to make the building not have any property line infringements that I'm aware of, based on GIS information I was able to pull up yesterday. So our parking that we're using for the building is more of, there's 8 parking spaces, of which 2 are encumbered by the radius of the well right now. All the parking that we're using behind the building, which is our handicap, is on a different parcel of land. And we ended up putting a sign and a flagpole in one of our 6 parking places. I wasn't here then, so, I mean, I was here, I physically had begun working here and was training under Mr. Edwards while he did the inspections. But I didn't know anything about this. We do have some problems. We didn't follow our own ordinances when we built our own building. It's not a thing I'm proud of, but it did happen, and hopefully we can fix that someday. But if you remove the well, I think you're gonna remove the encumbrances on the building itself. But you're still not gonna remove the problem with, we need to officially combine the development services lot with the fire station lot so that its parking spaces are legal based on our ordinance. But you can't sell the fire station's lot and its parking spaces. We got some issues here. I mean,
So if we actually had gone through the process of selling that development services building and property, we would have been selling the parking for the fire station.
yes, ma'am.
Josh, one question. I was told that Homeland Security had some guidelines about the tower, the water tank, because it has some communication equipment in it.
That would be a David question. I don't. Homeland Security question about your water tower.
Are we ever going to come to a day that we don't find out something that has to be corrected because it wasn't done right?
We get a new ordinance.
What was the question, Mr. Medlin?
The water tower. I was told that there were some requirements there from Homeland Security because of some communication equipment there.
There is still,
Restrictions as far as parking goes.
there's still existing easements through there for the phone carriers that are on the towers. There's 2 alleyways that we give them for access. That still goes along with those properties. So as long as they can travel across it, we're okay. As far as the parking, there was a regulation that went through, I think in 2007 or 8, that when the public water supply came and looked at the Yopon Tower, we told them we were switching over to reuse water. And when we told them we were switching over to reuse water, they said that we would be exempt from having to fence the structure. So I think that was the change that happened. If we made it back to potable and we put parking around it, and we put parking within so many feet of the structure, we would have to ask to erect a fence around it for protection. Same as the thing as at the rec center, we have fencing around the back of that structure. At the, behind the rec center, we have a fence around that water tank. In Middleton, we do not have a fence around it, but the store, and there's no parking or anything around the structure, so we're okay there. But if we put potable water back into Trott Street and put parking around the structure, public water supply may make us fence it.
Josh,
Yes, ma'am.
the building that's there at the Development Services Building, in your opinion, yours and John's or David's, what would it cost to make that building habitable? And would that cost more than just going ahead and demolishing the building?
You have habitable, I mean,
Well, it needs a lot of work.
I'm sure it does. I haven't done a review on it. It's like many of our other buildings in the town. I mean, if you don't change its occupancy, which I think our offices were offices. And, well, we just leased it. That's the other thing.
I think the building itself, I don't know, I think Jim's been through it. I don't know how many, the rest, you've been through it?
Well, no, but I'd like to say something.
Sure.
If we're gonna make ordinances and make people follow ordinances, we darn sure better follow our own ordinance. And right now, we're not in compliance with our ordinance. So if that means tearing that building down so the fire department has their parking like required by our ordinance, that's what needs to happen. We've started on this council doing things right. There's no sense now to turn back and start doing things halfway. If the ordinance is not being followed, my opinion is follow our own ordinance.
Parking, is that what?
Yeah, I mean, if it's
Well-
required for the fire station, we need to follow what.
We can come into compliance by combining the 2 parcels into 1 parcel, correct, Josh?
There's more like 8 parcels. I'm trying to pull them up right
8?
now.
Yeah. 8?
Yeah, there's the building, there's 4 where the fire station sits, and there's 4 where development services sits.
I believe we combined the ones where development services sits.
I'm trying to pull up yesterday on, and I wish it would pull up. Yesterday on Brunswick, it didn't appear to be that way, so I'm trying to pull it up.
Oh, there's as many as 8 or not, but.
And Steve, I was told that should council decide to abandon that building and let the fire department burn it down, there is an alternative location that we can offer to Matthews Ministries if we please.
That's something we're checking on now. I think there's a good shot that we can.
Okay.
Well, let's don't get the cart before the horse here.
Yeah.
Josh?
Yes, sir.
Did I understand you to say that if we abandon the well, tear down the well house, we will have enough adequate parking there for the fire station?
If we abandon the well today,
Tear down the well
you
house.
can, not by ordinance, put parking there. But you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 different parcels on Brunswick County GIS right now. Starting with 250, CG 013 going through 019. And it won't show them all because I've got it too, but there's 8 different parcel numbers right there. So your parking has to be on the parking for that business needs to be on its land. You have a provision in our ordinance that says you can have up to 20% of your required parking on another piece of property within 400 feet, linear feet, and in the same block. Well, you've got that issue. You're with your 400 feet, but you're within the same block. But if you go to 18147, you can have no more than 5 head-in parking for any one establishment. We got 8 of them over there.
There's one other thing too, that there's additional parking in front of the building that John, I think didn't you come up with a sketch for additional parking, or somebody did? Well, somebody came up with a drawing, I can't remember who did that.
You talking about in front of the fire
In
station?
front of the developmental services building, but that was, I'll have to go back and check that.
Am I hearing that one of the very first, most simple steps that we could take would be to combine all those parcels into one parcel, and then we would instantly correct the situation of not being compliant with our ordinances as far as the parking is required?
Yes, you would. The town of Yopon Beach Finance Department owns most of that, some of those parcels.
Well, when they consolidated, it became.
Yeah, I understand.
So I would like to suggest that a council member make a motion to ask our town manager to work with the town attorney and combine all those parcels into one with Brunswick. You can do it, okay?
You're
Ask
creating
Josh.
less lots. You're not doing a major subdivision. You're creating less than I can do it. It's an instrument of combination.
All that property will become just one parcel instead of little broken up parcels.
But when you do that, development services becomes part of the fire department property.
And we can't sell it then,
Right.
if it becomes part of that parcel.
You can make development services one parcel.
That lot out?
Yes, you can, at a staff level, it's not more than 4 lots being created. I can combine all 8 of them and separate 4 of them out.
That's the route I would recommend.
Okay.
Now,
Makes more sense, yeah.
Okay.
I believe, and Mr. Foster's got more experience in this, that somewhere unwritten or written that municipalities can make themselves exempt from some of
Sovereign immunity. I
sovereign
suppose.
immunity. I don't necessarily, I kind of agree with you.
It's good to be the king.
If you'll direct us to look at that, and if it can physically be done, we can bring that back in March.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, we can do that. We do have one issue, though. We have a paramedic level class that needs 25 parking spaces, March 2nd. And unless we get that well abandoned, we can't park them there.
So we need a motion to abandon the well.
Already got that.
Already got that.
You got a second for that motion too, by
We
the
got a
way.
second for that motion, and we voted on it.
You voted on it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was unanimous. Okay, so you've already got that.
Well done. So we need to direct staff to start that tomorrow, I would imagine.
On what? Abandoning the well?
Getting whatever David said we had to do to abandon that well.
Yeah.
We got
Start when you
a
can.
few days. Yeah, we're good.
You can start tonight if you want to. And then also, need a motion to direct staff to combine the parcels at the Fire Station Number 2 and the Development Services Building in the manner as suggested by Josh Crook.
No, I
Cut
thought
that
he was
building
saying.
out.
It's gonna be a combination and then a subdivision.
Be a combination and then a separation.
And what will that do?
That'll create,
Comply with the ordinance.
it'll,
Separate the.
if you
development
can put them all together, you comply with your parking.
And where does that building fall as far as
Well,
in the realms of?
Excuse me, if you put them all together, you're still more than 20% of your required parking on another parcel. So you haven't fully complied. If you got 14, 2 of them or 3 of them's gotta be somewhere else and the rest gotta be on your property. So it's gonna be hard to comply regardless with that.
You'll direct us.
Counting the ones on the side street there, the
Those
parking
are
places?
part of it. That's in the
part of it?
plan. In the original plan that's in the file, that old Development Services building was gonna be a training facility building or a training center for the fire department.
Madam Mayor, if you'll direct us to look at the possibility of combining and then subdividing those parcels to comply with the ordinances and keep the Development Services building off of the fire department's property, right, Danny? You don't want that, we don't want that because then we couldn't sell it, correct?
I don't want to sell it, I want to tear it down.
Well, I'm just saying, but that's one thing that came up.
Yeah,
Well, let's get
I
it-
don't know if I've made that clear yet or not to everybody. I thought I had.
That was one of the issues that came up, to keep that separate from the fire department's property. If that can be done, staff, Stephen and myself will look at it and bring it back to you as a possibility.
Why don't we begin with that? We've already voted to abandon the well, let Josh work with Brian, bring it back at the March meeting, and then at that point, we can discuss what to do with the building and whether to keep it on the market or abandon it.
You know, we are right in the process of signing a lease on that building. So,
Well, that's why I'm just on the verge of making a motion to tear the building down, but I'm not gonna do that because we've committed to these people, and I'm not gonna leave them out in the cold, a place to go, until we find it. But I want to reiterate with what Jeff said. If we're gonna ask other businesses to comply, we're gonna comply first. I got real heartburn with how this was done. And then there's another issue I'm gonna throw out, is the handicap parking at that building. We were supposed to have a handicap parking place in the front of the fire station. Because of the grade and the slope of the concrete, you can't. But they put it out back, and a handicapped person's gonna navigate across the gravel and up a wooden ramp. Well, I'd rather just roll up in the wheelchair up the front, up the grade before we do that. So I think we need to comply with having the proper handicap, you know, and people say, well, no handicapped people comes there. Well, I don't think that has anything to do with whether you're supposed to have handicap or not. It's supposed to be available.
ADA compliant.
And you said it needs to be a van accessible, and that would take 2 of the 5 front parking spaces out the front of the fire station.
Steve Edwards can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have one handicap space, it has to be van accessible? And then every 8, or is that changed? Every 8 spaces? Then for every 8 more, you have to have another handicap. So you'd only have to have one there, but it needs to be van accessible, and that's the 2 spots by the sign. It's gotta be 18 by 18.
And Betty, I want to agree with what you said. I too thought we would quit finding things that had done wrong, but it seems like every time we turn around, something else comes up.
I mean, this is just the fire department and development services, and listen to all the issues that you've got to correct. Now, do we need to ask staff to look into putting a van accessible handicap parking space in the front of the building? Can you correct the grade of that concrete?
If you direct us to bring back a plan that makes it compliant with all applicable laws and ordinances, which ordinance is a law.
Okay. You want me to make a motion that says that?
Please.
That'll cover that.
Mayor Wallace, I
Yes.
make a motion that we bring this whole parcel into compliance to where it's what it's supposed to be, as if we were making a business somewhere else in the town comply. And I want the attorney to make sure it covers handicap parking and anything else, ordinance compliant, anything he sees fit. I want it done right this time, period, end of story.
Whatever you have to do.
You're gonna have to have a new appraisal on that building, because if you take property away from that, that building's not gonna sell for that price.
That's fine.
I'm not wanting to sell the building.
That's what I know, but I'm telling you.
All we're doing is
I know
bringing
y'all
back a
hadn't
plan.
heard that before, but
Back a plan, so we can hear
We can't do
more
that
about
until you
it.
approve it, and we're gonna bring
No.
back a plan for you to consider.
Correct.
And Jeff, that's a good point, and that may be something y'all wanna discuss once you look at how it's carved up.
So the motion is for the attorney to work with Josh to bring back a plan in March to consider on what needs to be done on all of those parcels on those two buildings,
To make it compliant.
to make it compliant. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Scott. Any other questions for me? And wait, let's get all this done, then we'll talk about the building. And in the meantime, I would like for you to look into possible alternative locations for Matthews Ministries in case.
I've got a call, I'm gonna have a call into them first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay. Any further discussion, please? If not, all those in favor, please. All those opposed? Is unanimous. You guys noticed that we had an entire meeting tonight, and every vote by council was unanimous?
Mayor, I've got one more thing I want to say. I put this on here, I want to take it off the market. I want to make a motion that we go ahead and take it off the market. Might get voted down, it's been happened before, but I'm making that motion, we take the building off the market for sale.
We have a motion to take the building, for the time being, off the market. Do we have a second on that? Second by Counselor Scott. Any discussion on that?
I just would rather us wait till we see the plan coming back from the attorney.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it can't be sold with all this hanging in the wind, but I don't want to take that. I'm not in favor of.
If you take it off the market until they get it all corrected, you can always vote later.
Can't be
to get it back
sold
on
while
the
we got it on the
again
market.
With a better adjusted value.
I just think we're jumping the gun again.
Okay.
I mean, if we take it off the market right now, till we figure out what's going on, I mean, if we take it off the market, I'm ready to tear it down.
I'll make that motion if you want me to.
He's ready to make that motion, Jeff. Don't mention that again. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please. All those opposed? Carries 3-2. Man, you broke our record tonight. Okay, if there's nothing else, we will entertain a motion to go into closed session. Paragraphs.
Mayor, could I say one thing? I need to check with our real estate agent to see when his.
March.
Well, we need to do that, Brian?
I think it was in the
When his contract runs out on it?
Yeah, but I mean, I think
packets,
we
March
can take.
31st.
Yeah, March 31st.
Go in, okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
We're good.
Madam Mayor,
Please.
I move that we go into closed session to discuss specific personnel pursuant and potential litigation
Yep.
pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A, 3 and 6.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please? Okay. Only one motion tonight was not. Our council took no action during closed session. If there's no other business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, please. Moved to adjourn by Councilor Medlin. Have a second? By Councilor Weinkauf. All those in favor, please. And thank you guys for staying so late, coming, and all the information that we got from you tonight. Thank you.